Hi and welcome to another of our little series of videos focused on the area of modulation. So if you were a Baroque or a classical composer, you would start your piece in a key and you'd modulate somewhere safe. In other words, a nearby key. So you're in C major, you might go to G major, add one sharp. You might go to F major by adding a flat. You might go to the relative minor, A minor, but you probably wouldn't go too far out of that zone. There are Baroque pieces that actually do explore something a bit more adventurous than that, but that's kind of basically the world in which they lived. And of course, as time and a half goes by, composers start to be a little bit more adventurous about getting from one key to the next. But for quite a long time, if you wanted to go from this key to a key somewhere away, you'd have to go through some of the intervening keys to get there. And you'd have to use these things called pivot chords. In other words, I'm going from this key to that key, and I need to find which chords are in both this key and that key, so I can use one or more of those pivot chords to make the journey. But as we went on, particularly by the time we got into the 19th century, composers were getting interested in using chromatic chords a bit more. One of these is the augmented 6th chord, and I'm going to talk today about the German 6th in particular. And we're just going to explore how it might be useful in terms of modulation by a different kind of technique. So first of all, let's just be crystal clear what we mean by a German 6th chord. And if you're not sure about augmented 6th chords, we've got another video out there on YouTube that explains all this. Basically, to form this chord, you're in C major. May not look like it because you're looking at A flat, E flat, F sharp, thinking, what's that got to do with C major? But hold on to your hats. We're definitely in C major. When you want to make a German 6th, the first thing you do is you find minor 6 above the tonic. So the tonic C, minor 6 above that is A flat. Or you could think of it as the 6th degree of the scale lowered by a semitone. Doesn't matter, same result, A flat. You then find an augmented 6 above that note. So A flat, augmented 6 above it, F sharp. You then put the tonic in the middle. So that's what C is doing there. And if you want to make this a German 6, you add a perfect fifth above the bottom of the chord. So perfect fifth above A flat is E flat. So there's the chord. Sounds like something else, but it's a German 6 in the key of C. So I'm tiddling along in C major. And then I think I need something a bit exciting. So I use a German 6. Ooh, rather nice, isn't it? And when I use a German 6, I can either follow it with 5 or 1C5. Like 1C5. It's a nice approach to that cadence, isn't it? Do you see how it adds a bit of colour? So that's me using the German 6 as it's meant to be, as a chromatic chord in the key of C major, by constructing it as I explained and just by slipping it in before a 5 or a 1C5 progression to add to colour. One thing you can do with this though is that you can make a little enharmonic alteration to it. So you might arrive on this chord in C major, but then you might say, well, what happens if I rename one of these notes? So I'm keeping these three. And instead of F sharp at the top, I'm going to call it G flat. So it's going to sound the same, isn't it? But be clear about this. If it's a German 6 in the key of C major or C minor, it must look like this: A flat, C, E flat, F sharp. But what I'm saying is that you could get a little bit inventive with this and say, well, if I change the F sharp to G flat, what happens to this chord? Well, suddenly what was a German 6 in the key of C becomes a dominant 7th in the key of D flat. So if you want to modulate from C to D flat major, well, at first sight that looks a bit difficult, doesn't it? Because C's got no flats, no sharps, D flat major's got 5 flats. So how do you get there? Well, you could think, I'll have a little journey. I'll start in C major, I'll go to F major, I'll go to B flat major, I'll go to E flat major, I'll go to A flat major, then I'll go to D flat major. You'll get there sometime this side of Christmas. But if you want to get there quickly, here's a little trick. So I'm tiddling along in C major. then I've decided to use my German 6, which normally I'm going to go 1, C, 5, 1. But this time, I'm using my German 6, and I'm renaming the F sharp G flat, and I'm then going to go into D flat major. Do you see how I did that? My goodness, we just moved from a key with no flats to a key with 5 flats just by using this chord, the German 6, and then renaming one of the notes enharmonically. So you see how this can be used as it's meant to be used as a chromatic chord, but it also opens up new doors for the possibilities of modulation. And it enables you to move 5 flats away from where you are in one gentle move. So quite an interesting little trick that you can work on using the German 6. So happy modulating.